What is going on, y'all? I'm so excited to talk about the changes I've made to Sneasler and Hisuian Sneasel. But before I get into explaining why I chose this type combo, what these new abilities do, what all the new moves do, all this crazy stuff that you see on your screen, which I promise I will explain, I want to have a quick disclaimer for new viewers. As you can see, everything is a lot different in this ROM hack. I changed all sorts of things. Most importantly, those are the moves, but also just the way the game is balanced and intended to be played is important to understand to get the context of why, for example, like why would you make Sneasler bulky or whatever, like stuff like that. Um, so if you read the description, it'll give you more context for how the ROM hack is balanced and why I make the decisions I do, and it'll just give you a better idea of my approach. When you're done with the video, you can watch other videos I have explaining this. You can join my Discord. I have text channels explaining the ROM hack more, videos explaining the ROM hack more, videos for every Pokemon change in the game, and then most importantly, I have this move guide on the Google Sheets, which I really recommend you check out if you haven't yet. I don't have time to cover every single move buff and change in these games because I've reworked and overhauled literally all the moves in the game, right? So this music is kind of quiet. Um, so yeah, just give that all a read when you're done with this video. Don't click off yet because it'll mess up the watch time. And last thing I will say before I get into explaining the stuff here is to, make sure you drop a like, drop a comment, sub, all that good stuff. It really helps with the algorithm and helps me improve my channel and grow my channel and get more people to see my work. Uh, and I put a lot of effort into this, so it's worth doing that for me. Okay, so a lot of being said, make sure I watch to the end too. It helps as well. Sneasler. I prefer Hisuian Sneasel's design, which is why I gave it its own two unique offensive abilities compared to Sneasler. As for first thing I should probably address is the typing, right? There's gonna be probably, if my guess is like 3/4 of the people who watch this are gonna be like, this is so fucking dope. It makes so much sense. He always should have been Ice type. And then there's gonna be that small percentage of people who's like, I think it's stupid. You're making it. There's gonna be some people who are like, why would you make it? It sucks. You've ruined it. It's typing is worse now. It's a bad Pokemon now. You ruined it, as if because they're like competitively brained, right? So in their head, Sneasler is like, the only thing Sneasler does really is fucking Unburden, Sweep, Cheese. And the fighting typing obviously helps because it makes it take less damage from, entry hazards and shit, whatever. None of that matters in an in-game context. Unburden is useful, but it's not useful for the same reasons it's useful in competitive necessarily. And then the ice typing is also really cool offensively. Obviously, fighting is a good offensive typing in its own right. But so in this ROM hack, I want to have a Pokemon of every type combo. And the only candidate for Poison Ice in the real games, to be honest, in general, is Nihilego and Sneasler. And Nihilego isn't in Scarlet and Violet, so the only real choice is Sneasler. And also, regardless if there was another Poison Ice type, I would still do it because it just there is no fucking reason Sneasler should never have been Ice type to begin with. There's nothing in the Pokedex that alludes to them, living in different areas. Like they live in the same fucking cold areas that Weavile does, man. They live in cold. Look, it literally says no other species could hope to best it on the frozen highlands. It's frozen. So he's like a fucking frozen. God, it makes me so angry that it's not ice type in vanilla, man. There's literally no reason for it not to be. Anybody who disagrees, I just think you're wrong. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I think you're just wrong. It totally should have been ice type. It just makes sense. It's the same exact logic as Weavile. They just live in icy areas. They have ice powers, whatever. I mean, that's it. So yeah, I think it's also just really fucking cool. It's actually one of my favorite type combos in the game. Poison Ice, Poison Electric, Bug Ground, Bug Dark. Those are some of my favorite combos in the game. Um, Poison Ground, stuff like that. So yeah, Poison Ice, sick typing, and yeah, that's about it for that. It also makes them really cool. Yeah, offensively they have tons of cool moves now to take advantage of with that ice typing, and then they both have access to Permafrost, which is a really unique defensive ability that, a decent amount of ice types get, maybe like 5, 6 or so. I don't know exactly. Yeah, less than 10, maybe around 10 at most. Point is, not that many ice types have it, but a good amount do. And that makes them incredibly bulky, like incredibly bulky on the special side. And you also can now take advantage of this buffed black sludge. So I like the idea of like a bulky Sneasler. I know some people will think it's kind of cursed. I think it's fucking cool, especially because it's on the special side, right? It's not like they're physically very tanky, but specially, I don't know. I just think it's cool. I just like the idea of it, mostly because I love Poison type and I love Poison type defensively, and I love the fact that I buffed Black Sludge to be, essentially Poison Heal, right, or to be double leftovers. So I think being able to take advantage of that buff Black Sludge with that Permafrost is really cool. It makes this thing super versatile because you can use it purely offensively or purely specialty defensively, depending on the boss fight and the potential Pokemon you're going to be fighting for that fight. It's nice to switch your abilities around at will. It's nice to be able to switch your EV spreads and your moves at will. So you can run like a bulky utility set with like Slack Off, Parting Shot, Permafrost, whatever. And the next boss fight, you can run Ruthless or Merciless or Technician or Unburden, you know, one of your offensive abilities. As for Sneasel itself, so both Sneasels are now going to be 120 speed. Sneasler is 115, and then Weavol's 125. So there's kind of a little parallel there where like Sneasler loses 5 speed and Weavol gains 5 speed. The speed is pretty much inconsequential for Sneasler. It doesn't matter. 115 speed is fine with that because keep in mind you have to keep in mind you're only guaranteed 20. You're getting 20 speed IVs no matter what instead of 31 like the AI does, and you're also not guaranteed a plus speed nature. Only 20% of the time you'll get a plus speed nature. It's it's a ROM hack, right? So if you want to go against the intended rules and use the mints to change your nature to whatever you want to, you can. If you're playing casually and you're just playing for fun, go ahead and do it. The game might be easier because of it. It definitely will be. But if you're struggling or you don't want to play super hardcore or whatever, you just want to have fun and mess around, then you can do that. But if you're playing as intended, then yes, you're only getting this much speed. So you're only outspeeding base 95 naturally, base 95 AI Pokemon. So Unburden has use there. You also can do Ruthless plus Choice Scarf, Merciless plus Choice Scarf, or Technician plus Choice Scarf. You also have Priority, which is Technician boosted on Sneasel. Obviously, Sneasel is weaker on paper than Sneasler, but you have that unique Technician and Merciless, which makes it worthwhile over Sneasler. And technically also the speed, although the speed is really only relevant if you got a plus speed nature. Then I would say the speed tier is more relevant. If you got a neutral speed nature, it's like 120 versus 115. It's not that big of a difference, really. You're outspeeding. Do you speed base 100? You speed type base 100. So basically, you get like an extra 5-ish base points, which I mean checks out because it's 120 versus 115. So yeah, Merciless is really cool though. And then obviously Merciless turning into Ruthless is cool because Ruthless is like the crit move, right? And Merciless makes your moves crit. So I think that's kind of a cool little synergy there. So like Merciless, Icicle Crash. Icicle Crash is 95 power, 100% accurate, no drawback there. Ice Punch is 80 power, 100% accurate. Triple Axle requires the use of Wide Lens, but it is very worth it with Technician. Obviously, Loaded Dice Icicle Spear is also very strong with Technician. So Icicle Spear Loaded Dice is a guaranteed 100 base power, while Triple Axle is guaranteed 120 with Wide Lens. So Triple Axle is definitely better overall than Icicle Spear, but of course you don't get you get Icicle Spear super early on, but you don't get Loaded Dice probably until like I would say level 30-ish. But once you get it, you go kind of crazy. I would personally love to just keep Sneasel. I think it's sick. Also, a Violite wise, it's incredibly bulky on the special side with that Permafrost and a Violite. And even on the physical side, it can take some hits if you invest in the defense. But yeah, it's super tanky on the special side. Of course, you can't run Black Sludge and a Violet at the same time, so Sneasler is bulkier when you consider the Black Sludge and the 80-80 bulk. But the point is Sneasel is also really cool. I love the Sneasel design, Hisuian Sneasel. I think it's so clean looking. Fun fact, I actually made this Global Link art myself, although they might have finally updated it. It was when I was doing the Dues decks, like putting all the Mons in on it. Yeah, see, now they have the fucking art, so I wasted my time making custom art for no fucking reason. Anyway, whatever, I made this art, but the real one is obviously better than my custom one, so whatever. Back on topic. Yeah, I don't know, man. You got tons of Technician boosted options. You got your Priority Poison Dart and Ice Shard, which are priority moves. Poison Dart is actually unique in that it always poisons, and it's slightly stronger, and it hits twice than all the other regular priority moves, like Aerial Ace and Creeping Strike and Quick Attack and Ice Shard, which are all just 45 power. Which are obviously very good with Technician in their own right, like Banded, Ice Shard for certain boss fights, Banded, Poison Dart, whatever. Also, if you got like Terra Normal, that would be super, super strong because you have Fake Out and Quick Attack and Double Hit. All very, very, very strong with Technician. So that would be super cool if you got Terra Normal. But any Terra type would be really cool on this guy. I mean, Terra Dark, with that Wicked Blow, Terra Fighting for the Brutal Bash, also kind of cool because then you have like the original Fighting type stab, which you lost. I think that'd be kind of sick, like Terra Fighting conceptually. But any Terra type is good. I'm not going to get into the whole Terra rant here. You can read more about that in the description if you want, or maybe watch the other videos about the game if you want to hear more about how Terra is going to work. And honestly, in the future, I might have to end up banning it, even though we'll have to see, because it is very broken for the player, because it's just so easy to exploit. But yeah, man, these guys are so cool. I love, that Triple Axle with Technician is very strong. Merciless in general is just a really strong ability because it's so easy to set up a Toxic Spike versus the AI. They have no hazard control. They don't have, a poison type on every team, stuff like that. So essentially, once you click a T-Spike, as long as you can get it off safely without dying or being prevented from doing so by taunt, then you're good to go. You've got T-Spike up for the whole fight, basically. And what that means is, if you switch in you can either set up T-Spike with somebody else, or you can use it with Sneasel itself. But if you're setting it up with somebody else, you can then switch in your Sneasel and just go crazy from there, right? You have guaranteed crit Icicle Crash, guaranteed crit Poison Jab. Poison Jab's 85 power, you've got Cross Poison, all this good stuff. Speaking of crits and Cross Poison and other stuff, Sneasler with Ruthless has 50% crit moves up until the end of the game. All of those 50% crit moves require a scope lens to be critting, which means they only are boosted with scope lens. If you're not running scope lens, they're not boosted. That's another reason I would prefer Sneasel. I think Technician is just and Merciless are more consistent. Ruthless requires you to outspeed for it to be any good. Meanwhile, Merciless, you can run a Choice Scarf, you know? And of course, if you need to outspeed with Sneasler, you have Unburden, which is great. I mean, very, very, very good, because Unburden is incredibly easy to work with now. So as you can see, Unburden essentially, as you can read here, you know, it's a easiest way to use it is Quick Claw, but there's a bunch of other ways to use it. I would say the most strong way to use Unburden is Endure plus Lychee Berry Unburden. In an in-game context, it's very easy to pull off, and it's very safe. It's unlike competitive, where it's, you know, much more risky to go for something like that. So yeah, very, very strong Unburden. And you have other cool stuff you could try, like CC Whiter, whatever, niche, you know, Unburden interactions you want to work with, but the main ones I would say are Pinch Berries and Quick Claw are the easiest ways. Or Sash, even like Sash, Weakness Policy, Unburden, for example. That's fucking strong. Or Jesus, Sash, I meant Endure Weakness Policy, excuse me. Endure Weakness Policy, Unburden, you know, you can bait one of the types that you're weak to, and then you get +2/+2. That's incredibly strong. So yeah, Unburden, very strong offensive ability. Ruthless, very strong. Once you hit level 50, you get a guaranteed crit stab in Dire Claw. The only other guaranteed crit moves that, before then are First Impression and Lash Out, which are not stab, but they're strong. Lash Out is 112.5 power, and First Impression is 135 power with the Ruthless boost. Keep in mind, both of those are also Technician boosted, though, so it's not as impressive. The main thing, I would say, unless you get a plus speed nature Sneasler, I mean, I just like Sneasel, so I'm kind of biased, but I would keep it up until at least like the later. I mean, you could keep it the whole game if you like Sneasel, but I would at least up until you get like, you know, Dire Claw and Brutal Bash and Wicked Blow and all that stuff. But that's just me. But you can evolve as early as 32 if you want, because obviously Unburden is still great. I mean, that's an incredible, really incredible ability on them. Very easy to use, gives them a lot of speed, which Sneasel doesn't have. Unburden for reasons I want to differentiate the two, right? Because I like making the members of the evolution line feel different from one another and feel different to play with. So yeah, you've got other multi-hit moves. So you got Icicle Spear, Pummel, Fury Sipes, and Wallop, all of which are loaded dice type moves. Battle Cry is great with Permafrost. Battle Cry drops attack and special attack. Obviously, Parting Shot is great. Dire Claw, as you can read, is now 60 base power crit move, like First Impression. So that is essentially becoming 135 power with Ruthless or Technician. So both Sneasel and Sneasler get a boost to Dire Claw. Toxicroak will also have Dire Claw, and then maybe Zangoose. That's all I have planned to get Dire Claw at this point. Zangoose is like a maybe, because like it doesn't actually make that much sense if you think about it, but it's cool. And then obviously Toxicroak makes perfect sense to learn it. So yeah, so Dire Claw, as you can read in that little fine print there, it has a 75% chance to status, which is completely irrelevant for the player. I mean, if you're running like a bulky Black Sludge Permafrost set, you could try fishing for some status, I guess, but it's inconsistent, right? It's inherently risky, it's inherently RNG reliant, it's also not guaranteed which status you get, so in general, it's just kind of a nightmare for the player in regards to like being consistent. I would just ignore it. I would ignore the effect. Obviously, if you get lucky in the middle of a fight and like you're in a near death position because you messed up your prep or you know, you got hacks or something, then yeah, go ahead and go for the Dire Claw hacks. But in terms of prep, you should never bank on that. However, for the AI, specifically Atticus, the Poison Star base, he's gonna have a Sneasler or a Sneasel, and you know, and he'll have Dire Claw, and yeah, that means you gotta slap on a Lumberry or play around the Dire Claw safely. You know, maybe make sure that doesn't, you know, whatever Pokemon you're using isn't baiting the poison move to begin with, so you don't have to play around the hacks, because it is essentially like almost a guaranteed status. And you know, the fact that it's unreliable which status it's going to be is even harder to play around, because you don't know if you're going to have to prep for sleep, para, or anything. So you just got to slap on a Lumberry or just pivot around smartly or whatever. There's a bunch of ways to counterplay, of course, but definitely something to keep in mind. And that's the reason I changed that. It's for the AI. It's not for you. Yeah, and then you've got Icebreaker at the end of the game. Icebreaker is a crit move guaranteed Wicked Blow type variant. You've also got actual Wicked Blow and Brutal Bash, all three of which are the same thing, just different types. Icebreaker is really fucking cool on them. I love the flavor of that. But yeah, those are 180 power with Ruthless, 120 power without. And the downside there is that you can't use them twice in a row. Obviously, so for example, Icicle Crash, like I said, is 95 power. So it's significantly stronger than Icicle Crash. You could also use Avalanche with Permafrost sets, would be kind of cool. You know, it's 140 power, so it's even stronger, but it's up to you. And obviously, I already covered the Icicle Spear stuff and Triple Axle stuff on Hisui and Sneasel. Sneasler shouldn't really be abusing Triple Axle ever, unless you desperately like. If you already evolved and you still need a multi-hit move, then you could still do Wide Lens, once in a while if you need to break through like a Sturdy or Focus Sash or something. But it's pretty niche because it does require that Wide Lens. Um, Beat up technician, very very strong. You can make that as strong as you want it to be depending on your team. On average it's going to be like 85 power with the technician boost adding on to that. It makes it over 127 power, but that's the average of beat up. It can be much 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 stronger. So yeah, that's cool. Stronger than Fury Swipes for sure, because you don't have to hold wide, you don't have to hold loaded dice either. um yeah, that's really it, man. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's straightforward. Ice Spinner gives you +1 speed now. I'm probably gonna have to end up nerfing these types of moves at some point because with Move Relearner, it's pretty OP to just be able to like switch in your Pokemon, get the speed boost, finish off a Pokemon with Trailblazer, Ice Spinner, or whatever, and then you can outspeed everything and just go from there, and you have tons of coverage. But I don't know. I'll have to see as the game plays how I feel like approaching changing those. I might either make them inaccurate, so you have to hold a wide lens, or make them negative priority, or some weird nerf, to make them more balanced. But I do think logically it's cool for Ice Spinner to give speed just like Rapid Spin does, Also just to differentiate it from Ice Punch and other stuff, because Ice Punch is 80 power now. So, and Ice Spinner being 90 feels pointless because Icicle Crash is 95. So that's the reason I made Ice Spinner boost speed, just to make it feel unique and worth using. But yeah, that's obviously very strong, especially on Technician Sneasel. I mean, it's insane on Technician Sneasel. Really, you can do like Ice Spinner or Trailblaze into Merciless or Technician, even Permafrost. But yeah, especially Technician, Ice Spinner plus your other moves like Icicle Spear or Triple Axle or whatever else it may be, Dire Claw, all that cool stuff. So yeah, thanks for listening. Let me know if you made it to the end of the video. I appreciate it very much if you did. Leave a comment down below what you think, if you like these changes or not. I'm assuming you did if you made it all the way to the end. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. Peace.